Thank you for joining us for our Artist at Sea Hangout today with Ben Cosgrove. We're going to take a quick moment and we'll get started in just a second.
Yeah, it's fine. Totally fine. Nothing. We're good. Yeah, but no one's talking to me.
All right, we're going to get started here. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Carly, and I am the Communications Manager for Schmidt Ocean Institute. And we are so excited to have Ben, our Artist at Sea, on board with us today. Ben has been our 5th artist that we've had on board research vessel Falkor since initiating our Artist at Sea program. Both a composer and musician, it's his first time at sea, and we're excited to hear about his experiences thus far. We look forward to hearing about your adventures and taking questions from the audience. Feel free to tweet us at Schmidt Ocean. We'll try and answer any questions that you might have. Ben, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, no problem. It's 7 a.m. here, so I'm...
Have you had your coffee this morning yet?
Yeah, only one. Only one, though, so we're getting there. In fact, it's over here.
Excellent. So tell us a little bit about what your experience has been like so far. How many days have you been out at sea, and what have you been up to?
Well, geez, how long have I been here? It's been like a week and a half, right? Something like that. I met the ship in Vietnam, and then we were there for a day, and then we went out to sea for that on I think the 24th of September. And now it's I don't know what it is where you guys are, but here it's October. So yeah, like a week and change.
Excellent. Well, in North America, it's September 30th, but we'll be switching over to October 1st soon. So tell us a little bit about your music. Give us some background here to what you're doing, what you do with your music, and what you're doing on board.
Oh, so in real life, I'm a touring musician. I play the piano, and my whole life is spent sort of driving around North America. I write music about landscape and place and kind of the human relationship to those things. And then I play them in this sort of weird variety of performance spaces all over the place. My life here is totally different because I don't have a keyboard or land. So it's been this really, really awesome, fruitful set of challenges to kind of respond to this situation.
So you're getting outside of your comfort zone a little bit.
Like super far outside of my comfort zone. It's good. It's like, yeah, no, it's been a neat set of inhibition or of restrictions.
And
so I'm writing more stuff kind of abstractly that I'll then record when I get back to the States, based on kind of what the ship is doing while I'm here.
Excellent. And how has been your experience being on the ship and learning a little bit about the science and what goes on a research vessel? How has that influenced the music that you make and your perceptions about being out at sea?
Oh man, tremendously. It's been, I mean, it's not just the science. I've never been at sea before, period. So a lot of what I've been responding to is just the simple fact of being out here. And I've been, as impressed as I've been by the science, I've been equally blown away by all of the things that all the different crew members have to do to move this sort of small city through the ocean. So I've been writing some blog posts that are kind of conveying my general like what it's like to be out here among these really talented people. And the music is going to ultimately be reflecting something of that. I think that's the plan. Was that your question? I think I
Yeah,
lost
yeah.
it midway
No,
through.
no, you're good. And well, tell us, what's been the most surprising thing for you?
The most surprising thing for me is that I was only seasick for like one day, and then it turns out that it's fine. So that was, and actually the most surprising thing is I thought, I mean, I can admit this now. Before I got here, I was deeply concerned. I'm a very sort of like hyperactive, anxious person, and I thought that after 2 days of being on a ship that I couldn't leave, I would be crazy. And that hasn't been remotely the case. It's been really nice. So yeah, maybe I'm a much more Zen-like, peaceful person now that I've been out here.
Well,
This
I
is
think
the lasting impact of Falkor or not.
I think there's also always something going on Falkor too that keeps it interesting and makes the days go by very fast. I see you guys have the map up behind you. What's it been like being exposed to some of this equipment on the ship? And tell us a little bit about your experience touring Falkor and working with some of the people on board.
Overwhelming and really impressive. I mean, everyone's been really good about. So I'm basically, I feel like I'm the only person on board that is not, whose job is not directly related to the actual like necessities of moving the ship around, which is. So everybody, I feel like everyone's been very indulgent in letting me kind of shadow them for different parts of every day. So I got to wander around the engine room, and all the engineers showed me what they did and how different parts worked, and what these pipes did, and this and this. And the MTs have taken me in and showed me what all of their crazy stuff does. I've been able to hang out on the bridge and see how the deck officer or the bridge officers navigate situations, like going through one of these straits. We had to like figure out traffic, who's going where and what. And these are all just considerations that do not occur in my real life. So it's been a very sort of broadening experience to be here and kind of learn how many systems have to be perfectly in place for this operation to be pulled off.
So now you mentioned your music really deals with landscape. How does a straight ocean or, you know, vastly expansive blue landscape influence the type of music that you're doing?
Yeah, aquascape. I think pretty profoundly. I mean, it's you're still sort of a person in an environment, right? And I wrote a little bit about this in one or two of the blogs, but the thing that has been most sort of moving to me is to realize, like, on one level you are, you know, surrounded by this sort of infinite emptiness, right? Like I've never really experienced that before, but if you go up on the back and you look in every direction and it's just this hard horizontal line circling you entirely, which is not very exotic at all to anybody on this ship except me, but I find that just super weird. But then when you, on another level, when you remember that that's just sort of the water that's sitting on top of all this other stuff, that's been sort of a mind-blowing revelation for me. And so then that's kind of why I've become very interested in the mapping work that Falkor has been doing and like seafloor mapping through history. Just like the crazy process of trying to figure out what is at the bottom of the ocean is a compelling one for me.
Excellent.
It's really weird talking to you because you are on camera here. So it's never had a conversation where I can't read anybody's facial expression.
Well, I'm very interested in all that you have to say. Can you walk us through a day in the life? What has been a typical day been for you out at sea?
I don't know that there's been a typical one. It's a good question. In general, I've been waking up really early because I never really got onto the correct time zone, which is good. And then I sort of run down to the mess and talk to people, come up here, and I write stuff here in the library. And then I will generally wander off, see what other people are doing, and bully them into letting me come along. Oh yeah, no. Usually in the morning, there's a meeting on the bridge where everyone talks about what they're going to do that day. I go to that, see what's happening. Generally, throughout the day, I pester people about what they're doing, where we are, how stuff works, all that. I think they'll all be relieved to have me off the ship. And then in the afternoon, I mostly spend writing new stuff. So whether that's another piece of writing, or I've been working on some small stuff with guitars, and kind of sketching out the pieces that I'll be recording after I get off. And then at night, there's dinner, and then watch a movie. Last night we had this. Well, yesterday was not a typical day. We crossed the equator, and so there was this big ceremony during which those of us who hadn't done before were roundly abused, and then there was this big dinner afterwards, and then we realized that the bulbous bow of the ship was plowing through all of this bioluminescent plankton. And so we all ran up to the front of the ship, and you could just look over in the dark and see all of these sort of, all this bioluminescence just sort of erupting right off the bow of the ship. It was incredibly cool. And I'm not describing it well, but this is a bad answer to the question, what is a typical day?
So the answer is there is no typical day, I guess.
No. But those general ingredients are present in each day.
Yeah.
It's a lot of working on stuff privately, and then being allowed to accompany other people on what they're doing. It's been a great balance.
The bioluminescence sounds incredible, like a really, really unique experience.
Man, I can't even begin to overstate how, that was, I should rant and rave at length about this at another time, but yeah, this was so cool.
So we have a question here. That's come in. What is the process that you're doing to write your pieces, and what is the compositions you're writing about?
Oh, that's a good question. The process is mostly like trying out lots of different conceptual ideas, and then discovering one by one that they're, not good. And then there are a couple that are, and those are roads I'm chasing down now. The one that I'm most excited about now. So what should I say first? What I'm trying to write here for Falkor and SOI is some music that is not only just about my sort of experience on here, but also tied to the science and the data that's being performed and collected here on the ship. So I've been kind of looking around on the website. There's anybody can go to the website and see just all of all these crazy details about every aspect of like the salinity of the water around, and weather and navigation and all that stuff. What I've been most interested in, and it seems pretty pedestrian, but there's a gauge that we can all see in the mess file that shows the ship's bottom speed matched against its water speed. And I have not spent much time on the ocean, so I had to think hard about what that could possibly mean. And it's that, obviously, because there's this, when the ship moves forward, it's moving at a certain speed through the water, but because the water is also moving in one direction or another, that's not necessarily the speed at which the ship is moving over ground. So the piece that I'm writing that I'm most psyched about is going to be a piano piece, and it's going to take those two speeds, which kind of move in and out of each other like this, and it's going to map the part for each hand of the piano to one of those speeds. So when you listen to it, you will kind of hear how these sort of two parameters kind of come together and then spread apart, and come together and spread apart. And you won't necessarily use it to like track how fast the ship is moving, but I hope it'll illustrate the just the fact that there's this sort of mitigating influence of like a gigantic ocean on the simple act of moving forward through space and time. So that's my big project on here.
That sounds
and it's been tricky because one of the sensors isn't.
Yeah, that sounds so
Sorry?
interesting. That sounds so interesting. You know, I wouldn't have even thought of taking, you know, vessel speed and incorporating that into your work. Have you pulled data into composition before? Is this the first time you're doing something like this?
No, I've done it a couple times before. I wrote actually the other day a blog post about some of the ones, about one of the ones I wrote that I liked that I wrote this way, and two that I thought didn't work. I have all sorts of weird ideas and principles I've formed about how data should be used in, you know, art and music. The one that I wrote about that I was most pleased with, actually, I just came from Alaska. They were playing this piece of mine up there, and it was about population dynamics on Isle Royale, which is a national park in the middle of Lake Superior in Michigan. I'm doing this because that's the shape of the island, and it's up here. It's a designated wilderness, and there are really only two species of, you know, large mammal on the island. One is the moose and one is the wolf, and they're because one is the predator and one is the only prey of that predator. They really their populations are very sort of intimately linked to each other. So because there's been this 5-decade-long study where they look every year at each of those populations and see how they're related. And this really beautiful graph has emerged as a result of that, where you can see a spike in one population sort of causes a corresponding spike in the population of the other 2 years, or if one population declines, then is echoed again the other animal. And then towards the end, it gets all weird because climate change has really harmed the wolf population considerably. They don't have ice bridges to the land anymore, so they've become very inbred. So the wolf population is sort of bottoming out. There are, I think, now two. So the moose are really taking off. So anyway, I took those two, that line graph, and I took a viola player to interpret the line, one of those animals, and a bow player to interpret the line of the other. And when the population is relatively high, the instrument increases the intensity and speed and volume of what they're playing. And when it's low, they do the opposite. And I gave them specific notes to do this with. And the result, I hope, is that when the ecosystem is relatively balanced, you get this complex, like interesting, satisfying chord. Sounds like it's being played by one instrument. And then when something's out of whack, like when the wolves are hit by a virus, they bottom out, and the moose take off, then one instrument sticks jarringly out of the texture, and you don't, and it's stressful to listen to. And then you, like, as a listener, even if you don't know the source material, you feel a sense of relief when that resolves, and you get this sort of satisfying, well-balanced chord again.
Sounds amazing.
That will explain?
Yeah, that doesn't. Maybe this trip will inspire you to look at an ocean-related predator-prey relationship at some point.
Yeah, as long as I'm not part of it.
And if you were going to have a soundtrack or take one piece of music with you out on a ocean journey after experiencing some time on Falkor, what would that be?
Whoa, that's a great question. Is that your question, or is that somebody asked that on Twitter?
I just came up with that one now.
That's oh, good. Well, that's what my job is, man. I'm supposed to be writing that.
Okay, so your soundtrack, the music you're hearing is going to become the soundtrack of Falkor.
Yeah, permanently. Yeah, I don't know what else I would, something like, yeah. I'll tell you what I'm thinking about as I'm writing this music is I'm trying to write music that is, it's weird because there's something about, and I've struggled to explain this in writing so far, but the phenomenon that I think is so interesting is that at once you're someplace sort of still, right? Like there's this line on the horizon that goes directions that you can't, it's not moving, it's uninterrupted, and everything seems very static. But at once, I mean that's true, but also everything's moving all the time. Like the ocean is doing all these weird, where there's currents and there's wind and the clouds are doing crazy things, and we're on this gigantic metal thing that's blasting through the ocean. And so that weird kind of balance between stasis and movement, both experiencing both those things simultaneously, I think is just the biggest takeaway that I have phenomenologically from this whole thing is just so I'm trying to write music that feels at once sort of still and expansive, but also has a lot of things kind of running up against each other and moving constantly.
I love that. That's a really good viewpoint of life at sea. I enjoyed that.
Cool.
So
I'll say it again. You're talking to a camera because I have no read on anyone's facial expression. So yeah, no, that's good.
How does this experience going to play into your career trajectory with music? So how do you see this now incorporating into what you do moving forward?
Oh, I mean, it's I don't know specifically how it'll work into my career trajectory, but it's broadened my understanding of like how people can sort of move through the world, which is huge. I mean, that's everything I write music about, is sort of what it feels like to be a person on the planet. And this has dramatically expanded my sort of firsthand understanding of what that can be like. So yeah, I mean, I'm certainly lastingly affected by the experience of being somewhere like this and sort of seeing what has to be done in order for that to happen. Like seeing what goes into operating a ship like this, and what goes into understanding what goes on below us, and all of that will, I think, affect how I interpret different landscapes going forward, for sure.
And how do you?
Or I could just be out at sea for the rest of my life. That would also be fine.
Well, how do you engage and bring the ocean to people in places where they're not surrounded by the ocean, maybe where they're landlocked? Is there do you feel that your music is a way that might be able to bring that experience to some people?
I hope so. I mean, it'll bring mine. Yeah, either through the music or I've been trying to write as sort of explicitly about it as I can. But yeah, I mean, I've kind of seen that as my job as the artist on this cruise is I'm supposed to be here to figure out what this all feels like, and then interpret that in ways that people who can't necessarily be here can understand something of what it's like.
Yeah, excellent.
Well, I hope that's correct.
That's great. Can you give us a little sample or preview of some of the things you've been working on while you're at sea?
Sure. Yeah, this is. I'll just play you a little noodly. Can you hear that? Okay. Again, this is not my main instrument. I play the piano. That's important to establish. But I was enormously relieved to know that there were guitars on board.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much, Ben.
Oh, no, anytime. Yeah, thanks.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about that piece?
Sure. I mean, it's still in progress. I'm not sure. I mean, a lot about that is probably going to change. But like I said, like a lot of stuff I'm working on here, I'm trying to figure out ways to, that's supposed to be both kind of harmonically expansive and busy, right? Like it's moving steadily throughout, but it's got these sort of big open chords. And I wanted it to have I'm trying to write stuff with clear, like relatively simple melodies, because of another thing that I've been struck by how intentional everything has to be. Very little on a ship happens spontaneously. You have to sort of plot out your route, and you have to like arrange your head, and you can see exactly what you're, all these people have to know about every step of everything. And so I think my decision to use these sort of clear, direct melodies and this music is supposed to reflect that somehow. And then there's that big sort of wandering section in the middle, and that's, I don't know, I've been trying to, this is why I chose this one, this sort of has a little of all the ingredients I was talking about. That is sort of supposed to be sort of vaguely evocative of the idea that, even if there's this simple thing moving around on top, there's sort of all this sort of unknown weirdness around and below you that, you can't really predict or know all about or understand where it's coming from.
I love it. I totally pictured Falkor kind of moseying along the ocean as you were playing that. So thank you so much for sharing a preview of your piece with us. And actually that brings us to the half-hour mark here. Are there any final thoughts or things you'd like to share so far about your experience?
Oh man, no, I'm sure that I think I've probably rambled adequately so far. I mean, I guess I hope I've conveyed that I really love it out here, more even than I expected to, and I'm really grateful that I've had this opportunity, but I'm also very glad that Schmidt Ocean Institute has a program like the Artists at Sea one. I think it's a really forward-thinking and right and proper thing to do, sort of formally linking art and science like that. I've been enjoying looking at what previous artists have done, and it's been really sort of compelling and great. So I'm proud to be a part of it. Thanks for having me.
Well, we're so happy to have you as part of our artist cohort, and we look forward to hearing more about your time on board through your blog entries, which can be found at schmidtocean.org. And don't forget to follow us along on our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We'll be sharing lots of clips and the final products of Ben's work. So, Ben, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to hearing the rest of your music.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
Okay, take care. Thanks everyone for joining.
Bye.
Bye.